We wanted to begin this legislative session and our work together with hearing first and foremost from student voices. And we've partnered with the Minnesota Youth Council to solicit those voices from across the state. The upside of the pandemic is the greater ease with which people from across the state can participate in the legislative process. The Minnesota Youth Council committee was established in statute in 2013 under the auspices of the Minnesota Alliance with Youth. The committee consists of 4 members from each congressional district in Minnesota and 4 members selected at large. The duties of the council is to provide advice and recommendations to the legislature and governor on issues affecting youth, and to serve as a liaison for youth around the state to the legislature and the governor. There is members of Minnesota Youth Council Committee that meets twice each year during the regular session of the legislature. They select introduced bills in the House of Representatives and the Senate for consideration for a public hearing before the Committee of Youth. There is nothing as terrifying as presenting one of your bills before that committee. They are smart, they ask tough questions, and they are relentless. It's a great group of students to have engaged in the legislative process, and Minnesota is very lucky to have that structure in place.
I'd like to start off by saying thank you, Chair Davnie and the members of the committee. My name is Jaden Henderson. I'm a female, and I'm a first-year Minnesota Youth Council member, and I am very lucky to have the privilege to speak to you all here today. I'm a junior in high school. I'm 17. I'm also a representative from CD7, and I'm also a member of the Environmental Committee. I'd like to say my focus is wide. I'm a very open-minded person, but today I just want to focus on the effects of the pandemic and the impact it has on the younger generations. Before I jump into my testimony, I would like to say many of what the people who went before me said is very true. I am lucky enough to have a parent as a teacher, so I can fall back on that. So she can, it's actually my mother who's the teacher, so she can help me push forward and get motivated for things. So I'm very lucky to have that. Over the past 10 or so months, one of the major issues I have had and many of my classmates have had is the problem with technology and access to the materials needed. On average, I spend from 8:19 in the morning to 3:05 p.m. in the afternoon in class, and then I spend an additional 2 or 3 hours working on my homework on the computer. I am definitely one of the more privileged students here in Bemidji because I have access to a computer and access to the internet. But an example that I'm going to use that I've seen over and over again is many students in my school have to use their phones as a way to get to class and for Zoom, and that using a device such as a phone can be very distracting, and you can be easily sidetracked. And then there's also the issue of materials. And this year, my school had spent much of a limited budget on Chromebooks, but they were received very late into the year. So for the first half of the year, we didn't have them, and then we eventually got them. And that brings up one of my fears that the additional expense of the Chromebooks that is cutting into the district's budget will lead to cuts elsewhere into the year when students are back in school and need support. In addition to technology, another major problem that I've seen is mental health and motivation. And I think part of the problem for this is the fact that school systems were set up to be similar to a factory setting, so that in the past they could put out very good workers very quickly. And today we have different needs and different types of jobs, and the system should fit the individual and not the group. For me personally, before the pandemic, I had my schoolwork and home life separated. This helped my mental health, and I had trained my body and mind to fit those spaces, so I had the support to focus and stay focused. That gave me a balanced life and a balanced platform to work on my education. But with the pandemic, those two spaces had collided, and that had added a layer of stress into my life, which has been difficult to focus and has made me feel anxiety a lot worse. It also has made me feel overwhelmed multiple times through one day. And I'm not alone in these feelings, and getting access to help is harder than before. For instance, now if a student needs to ask a question or needs help with both schoolwork and mental health wise, they have to email and set up a meeting, which adds to the already mounting loads of things to do in a day. Also, those teachers and counselors have tons of workload, way more than students, because they have like 50 students or more. And another concern is students falling behind due to the difficult life circumstances. Some students, the basic resources for class, such as pencils, paper, and notebooks, are mostly provided from the teachers, and if the student doesn't have the ability to receive those resources, then they don't have the adequate materials to do homework that is given to them. This adds to the pressure of society on students to not be the odd one out, and it discourages students from getting or asking help with said materials, which then decreases their grade, which then adds to the stress to get better grades, and then that starts the spiral of procrastination, grades getting lower, and then eventually maybe even dropping out. I would like to thank Chair Davnie and the committee administrator, Sarah Burt, for listening to us students. I appreciate your commitment to providing young people opportunities to share our experiences, and I look forward to working with you in the future. I am happy to pass on or answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson.